Council members and participants, we are now live.
Thank you, everyone. Today is Monday, October 17th for the Committee on Finance. Good morning. Before we begin the public hearing, I will make the following announcements. Due to the continued threat of public health from COVID-19, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may be viewed or offer public testimony at public hearings and council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Philadelphia Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now know that the hour has come. Mr. McMonigle, will you please call the roll to take attendance from members that are in attendance? Please indicate that you are present when your name is being called.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, colleagues in the City of Philadelphia.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, colleagues, Eagles fans, Phillies fans around the city.
Councilman O. And Councilmember Squilla.
Good morning, colleagues. Present. Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present and the hearing is now called to order. This is a public hearing of the Committee on Finance regarding Bill number 220659, 220660, and 220742. Mr. McMonigle, will you please read the title of the bill?
I'll read all three bills before testimony. Bill number 220659, amending Bill number 220401, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 19-1500 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Wage and Net Profits Tax, by revising certain tax rates under certain terms and conditions, to correct a typographical error in stating the period in which a reduction in the resident net profits tax rate is applicable, and Bill number 220660, amending Bill number 210284, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 19-2600 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes, by revising certain tax rates under certain terms and conditions to fix a mistake in identifying the tax year to which a tax reduction applies, so that the tax reduction applies in FY 2023, all under certain terms and conditions, and Bill number 220742, authorizing an increase in the non-electoral indebtedness of the city within the Pennsylvania constitutional limit, authorizing the bond committee to sell bonds at public or private negotiated sale, to provide funds toward various capital municipal purposes, providing for appropriations to the Sinking Fund Commission for the payment of such bonds, and authorizing agreements to provide credit or payment or liquidity sources for the bonds in connections with issuance of the bonds and certain other actions.
Thank you, Mr. McMonigle. Before we begin to hear the testimony from the witnesses we have for today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for questions or comments they have for the witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Mr. McMonigle, can you please call the panel to be testifying this morning for the first bill?
Yes, can we have Mr. Rob DeBow?
Good morning. Mr. Chair, is it okay if I do all three bills at once in my testimony?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, good morning, Chair Squilla and members of the Finance Committee. I'm Rob DeBow, Finance Director, and I'm joined by colleagues from the Budget Office, Department of Revenue, and the Treasurer's Office. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bills 220659, 220660, and 220742. Bills 220659 and 220660 provide technical corrections to the net profits tax and business income and receipts tax legislation that was enacted earlier this year. The changes will conform the code to the rates intended by council and that were subsequently included in the 5-year plan that was submitted to and approved by PICA. Bill 220742 authorizes the loan for the FY23 capital budget, which was approved by City Council in June. So new legislation slightly larger to account for amendments to the final capital budget passed by council and is also needed due to some technical issues with the advertising the original loan authorization this spring. That concludes my testimony, and we're available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Wow. That was a great testimony there, Rob. We appreciate it. Just for clarity, and I know that these bills mainly are for technical purposes, for changes of the intent of the council's legislation. Is there anything else beside the changes? I know in the, I guess it was final bill, that there was an additional adage to that language.
Yeah, for the loan authorization bill, the initial loan authorization bill was based on the proposed budget from the administration. This version of the loan authorization also includes the amendments that were made during the budget process in discussions with council.
Right, and they were agreed on both by council and the administration, so this change is necessary. So I appreciate that. I will see if there's any questions for Mr. DeBow on these bills. Seeing none, is there anyone else to testify? Also, I'd like to recognize Councilman O is present at the hearing. Is Mr. McMonagle, or is there anybody else to testify or any public comment for these bills?
No, Mr. Chairman, we have no further testimony.
Okay, great. Hearing no further questions from members and there being no other panelists to testify, we will take a brief break to connect members of the public that wish to testify. And since there aren't any, we will move on to ending the hearing. This will conclude the hearing and will now go into a public meeting. Being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify, I will ask if anyone else present in the hearing whose name we have failed to call at this time wishes to offer testimony on the bill being considered today. Since there is none, I want to thank all the panels and witnesses for their participation today. We value your opinions. We now invite all panelists and witnesses to please disconnect from the meeting before we go into our public meeting. We will now pause for the proceedings briefly as multiple participants leave the hearing. Thank you. This concludes the public hearing of the committee. We will now go into a public meeting to consider the actions to be taken on these bills before this committee today. Mr. McMonagle, will you please call the roll of members?
Councilwoman Bass?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim? Councilman Jones?
Present.
Councilman O?
Present.
Councilman Squilla?
Present. We now have a quorum, and the chair will recognize Councilmember Bass for a motion on bill number 220659.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 220659 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All right, noted that Councilmember Jones seconded the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 220659 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Bill number 220659 will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. The chair recognizes Councilmember Bass for a motion on bill number 220660.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 220660 be moved from this committee with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
The motion has been moved and properly second. And favorable recommendation to suspend the council for first reading of this bill in the next session of the council. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. It's been moved and properly seconded. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Bill number 220660 will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and to further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. The chair now recognizes Councilmember Bass for a motion on bill number 220742.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that bill number 220742 be moved from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and also for a suspension of the rules.
Second.
For the record, seconded by Councilmember Jones. It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 220 be approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And the motion carries for bill number 220742 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. Is there any other additional remarks? Seeing none, this will conclude the business before the Committee of Finance today. Thank you all very much, and thank you for your quick testimony and for the business done today. Thank you.
Thank
Everybody
you,
have a great
Mr.
day.
Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have a great day.